I never thought I'd be the kind of person to get caught up in neighborhood drama, but life has a funny way of surprising you. I've lived in Oakwood Heights for almost 5 years now, a neighborhood so neat and uniform it could be mistaken for a movie set. Every lawn looks cloned, every mailbox perfectly polished, and every homeowner seems to have signed an invisible contract promising to keep things picture perfect. I was fine with that. I knew the deal when I moved in. What I didn't know was that living here also meant living under the reign of Barbara Thompson, or as everyone behind closed doors calls her. Queen Barbara has been running the Homeowners Association for the last 3 years, like a dictator disguised as a neighbor. She's in her mid-50s, always immaculately dressed, with hair so tightly pulled back it looks like it's holding her face together. Her favorite accessory? A clipboard. And her favorite pastime? Marching through the neighborhood, inspecting every yard, mailbox, and driveway like she's on a military patrol. For years, I managed to stay invisible to her. My house was tidy, my lawn trimmed, and I followed the rules. But that all changed the day I injured my back. It happened in the most ordinary way possible. I slipped on spilled water in my kitchen. The fall left me with a herniated disc and months of pain. I eventually needed surgery, and my doctor arranged for a visiting nurse to come by 3 times a week to help with my recovery. Her name was Sarah, warm, professional, and genuinely caring. She always parked neatly in my driveway, stayed about an hour, and went on her way. Everything was fine until one Tuesday afternoon. Sarah was guiding me through my physical therapy when the doorbell started ringing. Not once, but over and over, so fast it sounded like an alarm. I slowly got up, wincing with every movement, and opened the door. And there she was, Barbara, clipboard in hand, lips pursed, eyes sharp. "Excuse me," she began in that overly polite tone that always means trouble. "There's an unauthorized vehicle in your driveway." I blinked at her, still trying to catch my breath. "That's my nurse. She's here to help me recover from surgery." Barbara's eyebrows arched high enough to reach her hairline. "Well, according to HOA Regulation 7.4.2, commercial vehicles are not permitted in residential driveways during daylight hours." I tried to keep my voice calm. "Barbara, it's not a commercial vehicle. It's her personal car. She's a medical professional providing home care." Her lips twisted into that smug smile I'd seen her use on half the neighborhood. "It has a company logo on the door," she said. "That makes it commercial. She'll need to move it immediately or you'll be fined $100 per day." Before I could respond, Sarah appeared behind me, concern written all over her face. "Is everything all right?" she asked. Barbara turned toward her, dripping with condescension. "You need to move your vehicle immediately. You're in violation of our HOA regulations." Sarah stayed calm, her voice soft but steady. "I'm providing medical care to my patient. I'll be finished in about 30 minutes. Barbara's face went scarlet. "I don't care what you're doing. Rules are rules. Move it now, or I'll have it towed." I tried to reason with her. "Barbara, come on. There are exceptions in the HOA bylaws for medical personnel." I checked before Sarah started coming, but reason and Barbara have never met. She spun on her heel, muttering something about people thinking they're special, and started dialing her phone as she stormed away. Sarah looked uneasy. "Should I move my car?" "I don't want to cause you problems." "Absolutely not," I told her firmly. "You're doing your job. You're legally allowed to park there." We went back inside, trying to focus on the exercises, though both of us were on edge. Then, about 15 minutes later, I heard the unmistakable sound of a tow truck reversing. That sharp beep, beep, beep echoing down my driveway. I froze. My heart dropped. She actually did it. Barbara had called a tow truck, while my nurse was still inside helping me recover from surgery. Pain or not, I rushed outside as fast as I could, every step sending fire through my back. That's when I realized this wasn't just about rules. Barbara had made it personal. A burly tow truck driver was already crouched beside Sarah's car, securing the hooks when I hobbled outside, clutching my aching back. Barbara stood nearby like a queen, surveying her victory, arms crossed, chin raised, and that smug little smirk plastered across her face. "Stop," I yelled, the pain shooting up my spine like fire. "You can't tow that car. It belongs to a healthcare worker currently providing treatment inside my home." The driver paused, looking between us, clearly uncertain. "The lady here said it's a commercial vehicle parked without authorization," he said, nodding toward Barbara. "It's my nurse's car," I told him firmly, forcing myself to stand tall. "She's inside helping me recover from surgery. If you check the HOA bylaws, Section 12.3, it clearly states that medical professionals providing in-home care are exempt from parking restrictions." Barbara let out a cold, sharp laugh that could have cut glass. "That's nonsense," she scoffed. "There's no such rule." "Oh, there is," I said, trying not to smile. I'd been expecting something like this from her and had printed that very section after my surgery. I told the driver to wait, then limped back inside, grabbed the document, and returned. He took the paper and read it carefully, his brow furrowing before he nodded. "Yeah, it's right here," he confirmed. "Medical care workers are allowed while on duty." He began detaching the chains. "Sorry, ma'am," he said, glancing at Barbara. "Looks like this car's good to stay." Barbara snatched the paper out of his hands, scanning it like she was hoping to find a typo. "This must be outdated," she barked. "It's been part of the bylaws for years," I replied evenly, "long before your presidency." The driver clearly wanted no part of this suburban standoff. "Look, I can't tow a car that's legally parked according to your own rules," he said, climbing back into his truck. "Call us when you sort this out." He drove off, leaving Barbara standing there fuming, her face an alarming shade of red. "This isn't over," she spat, before storming down the street, muttering under her breath like a cartoon villain. Inside, Sarah tried to stay focused on my therapy, but I could tell she felt terrible. I gave her a weak smile. "Don't let her get to you. She's all bark and no bite. If only that had been true." 2 days later, when Sarah pulled up for my next session, Barbara was already waiting. She had parked herself across the street in a lawn chair, clipboard in lap, sunglasses on, like she was front row at a show she planned to critique. The moment Sarah's car rolled into my driveway, Barbara stood up, strutting over like a sheriff about to make an arrest. I opened the door before she could ring the bell, determined not to let this turn into another circus. "Barbara," I began firmly, "we've been over this. Sarah's allowed to park here under the HOA's medical care exemption." Barbara ignored me completely and turned to Sarah, smiling that fake, tight-lipped smile of hers. "I reviewed the bylaws more carefully," she said with the smug satisfaction of someone who thinks they've found a loophole. While healthcare workers are exempt from commercial parking rules, they are still subject to the visitor time limit, 45 minutes. Your sessions run an hour. That's a violation. For a moment, I just stared at her, too stunned to speak. "Barbara, are you seriously trying to enforce a 15-minute difference on someone providing medical care?" "Rules are rules," she said, clearly savoring the power trip. 45 minutes means 45 minutes. Anything over that is a fine. Sarah, ever composed, gave a small, polite nod. "Mrs. Thompson," she said gently, "I understand your dedication to the regulations, but my patient's therapy cannot be safely shortened." "His recovery depends on the full session length. Not my problem," Barbara snapped. "If you go over the limit, your car gets towed." She waved her phone in the air. "Tow company's already on standby." I was about to explode, but Sarah put a calming hand on my arm. "Let's focus on your therapy," she whispered. "Getting upset won't help your back." She was right. So I went inside, though I could practically feel Barbara's eyes burning through the window. 40 minutes later, just as I was starting to relax, the doorbell rang again. I opened it to find Barbara on my porch, tapping her watch dramatically. 5 minutes left," she said with mock sweetness. That was the breaking point. "Barbara, this is harassment," I snapped. "You're interfering with medical treatment. That's not just petty, it could actually be illegal." For a brief second, she looked startled. Then her face hardened. "Don't threaten me," she hissed. "I'm enforcing the community rules you agreed to when you moved here." "I'm not threatening you," I said evenly. "I'm informing you. If your interference causes harm to my recovery, it is considered medical obstruction," she scoffed, then marched back to her lawn chair, resuming her post like a guard dog on duty. When Sarah's hour-long session ended, Barbara was back at my door, phone already in hand. "That's it," she declared. "You're over the limit. Tow truck's coming and you'll be fined." Before I could answer, Sarah calmly stepped forward. "Mrs. Thompson," she said, her tone still professional, "I need to inform you that interfering with prescribed medical care can carry legal consequences. I've documented both incidents in my patient's medical record." Barbara froze for a moment but quickly composed herself. "You can't scare me with fake threats," she snapped. I know the law. What she didn't know was that Sarah had receipts, literally. She had been documenting everything since the first altercation, from photos of Barbara's lawn chair stakeouts to audio recordings of her outbursts, all with my permission. Her company's legal department was already aware of the situation. When the tow truck arrived again, Sarah walked outside, calm as ever, and presented the driver with her credentials and official documentation stating that interfering with her duties could be considered a criminal act. The driver took one look and shook his head. "Yeah, I'm not touching this." "Sorry, ma'am," he said to Barbara before driving away. Barbara's face twisted in fury. "This is unbelievable," she shouted. "You can't just ignore the rules because you think you're special." "Actually," I said, unable to hold back anymore, "it's called medical necessity. And it trumps your HOA handbook. Maybe talk to a lawyer before you keep digging this hole." "Fine," she snapped. "If that's how you want to play it, I'll see to it personally." For the next few days, Barbara vanished. The street felt peaceful again, and I dared to hope it was over. But come Monday morning, she returned. And this time, she wasn't alone. She brought reinforcements. This time, Barbara didn't come alone. She arrived flanked by 2 other HOA board members, her loyal followers, or at least they had been until that morning. The moment Sarah's car pulled into my driveway, Barbara was already marching across the street, her heels striking the pavement like gunshots. Before Sarah could even reach my front door, Barbara stepped in front of her, blocking the path. "You're trespassing on HOA property," she barked, though we were standing squarely on my private driveway. "You need to leave immediately." Sarah remained calm, as always. "Ma'am, I'm here to provide medical care to my patient," she said evenly. "Please step aside." And that's when Barbara crossed the line. With both hands, she shoved Sarah hard in the shoulders. "You're not welcome here during business hours. Leave now!" I'd been watching the scene unfold through my living room window. My stomach dropped and adrenaline kicked in. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. "Emergency dispatch. What's your emergency?" "Yes," I said, trying to steady my voice. "The HOA president just assaulted my healthcare nurse and is blocking her from entering my property to provide medical treatment." The dispatcher's tone turned serious. "Officers are being dispatched to your location right now. Please stay on the line." Outside, Sarah, calm even after being pushed, had her phone up, recording everything. The other 2 board members quickly realized just how bad things had gotten. They exchanged uneasy looks and began backing away, clearly wanting no part of Barbara's meltdown. I stepped out onto the porch. "Barbara!" I shouted. "The police are on their way. You just assaulted a licensed healthcare worker and interfered with medical care. Leave my property immediately." Her face went pale. "Police? That's ridiculous," she stammered. "You can't call the police over HOA rules." "I didn't call about HOA rules," I said coldly. "I called because you put your hands on someone. That's assault, Barbara. HOA authority doesn't make you above the law." She turned to the other board members for backup, but they were already speed-walking down the street, pretending they'd never been there. For the first time, Barbara looked uncertain. The iron confidence that usually radiated from her seemed to crack. "I was just doing my job," she muttered, her voice suddenly small. A few minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing. The officers listened carefully as Sarah and I explained what had happened. Sarah showed them her phone, replaying the video of Barbara's shove and verbal threats. As the footage rolled, the officers' expressions hardened. One of them turned to Barbara. "Ma'am, interfering with medical care is a serious offense," he said firmly. "And what we saw in that video, that's assault." Barbara's face drained of all color. "But I'm the HOA president," she sputtered, as if the title alone should grant her immunity. "That may be true," the officer replied calmly, but it doesn't give you the right to touch anyone or block access to medical treatment. Then came the moment that silenced the entire neighborhood. "Barbara Thompson," the officer said, "you're under arrest for simple assault and interference with medical care." Her jaw dropped. "You can't be serious," she screamed as the officer read her rights. "Do you know how much I've done for this community? I was protecting it!" But the law didn't care about her clipboard or her self-appointed crown. She was handcuffed and led to the patrol car, her face a mix of disbelief and outrage. Neighbors peeked through blinds and half-closed doors, watching the Queen of Oakwood Heights being escorted away. The charges were no joke. Simple assault, a misdemeanor that could mean up to a year behind bars and interfering with medical care. A Class E felony punishable by up to 6 years in prison and thousands in fines. She posted bail later that day, but the judge wasted no time issuing a restraining order. Barbara was barred from coming within 50 feet of either Sarah or me. A week later, the HOA called an emergency meeting. When Barbara showed up, she was almost unrecognizable. Gone was the polished, commanding woman who strutted through the neighborhood in heels and pearls. Her hair was limp, her clothes wrinkled, and her once fierce eyes looked defeated. The board voted quickly, unanimous and final. She was stripped of her presidency and banned from holding any HOA office in the future. "You can't do this to me," she whispered, voice cracking. "This is my community. I built it. I kept it perfect." But as the gavel came down, the era of Queen Barb officially ended. For the first time in years, Oakwood Heights felt quiet and free. And just like that, the nightmare of Oakwood Heights finally came to an end. Barbara's iron grip over the neighborhood was broken, and peace slowly returned to the perfectly trimmed lawns she once ruled like a tyrant. Sarah continued my therapy without further incident, and thanks to her unwavering professionalism and courage, my recovery stayed on track. The neighbors who once lived in fear of Barbara's clipboard finally started talking again, sharing relief and disbelief in equal measure.